While day one of the draft features the big names, the big stars, and all of that, as a hardcore NFL guy, a hardcore draft nerd, I far more enjoy days 2 and 3. Not even close. Because I feel like that's where you can show your real understanding and knowledge of the game of football and understanding and knowledge of the prospects. And if you end up being right on some of those guys that are taken in rounds 2 through 7, you can look really, really smart. It's one thing to say, hey, this guy with a huge name and reputation and potential star power ended up being a star, or this guy's probably going to bust out, and sometimes you're right, sometimes you're wrong. But it's those guys on day 2 and day 3 that you can really make your reputation on. But I love day 2 and 3 of the draft. Absolutely. So let's talk about day 2 and the biggest winners and losers. And I'm going to start off with the winners. We'll start off with the San Francisco 49ers. They didn't have a second round pick. Why? Because of the Jimmy G deal. So that's what they gave up to get what they hope and believe could be their potential long-term future franchise quarterback. And I don't know about any of you, but if you had the chance to get your franchise quarterback for the next 10 to 12, 15 years, and only had to spend a second-round pick in doing so, whether via selecting that quarterback or trading for that quarterback, you probably would do that 100 out of 100 times. And then to turn around in round 3 and get an off-the-ball linebacker like Fred Warner, who I feel like will fit very well in San Francisco, play very well next to Reuben Foster. That was a great day 2 when you look at the entirety of the picture for the 49ers. The Cincinnati Bengals. You look at their day 2. They get a potential center fielding free safety type in Jessie Bates. You know, some talk about him going late in round 1, very early in round 2. They got him in the mid-50s. Nicely done. And then in round 3, back-to-back picks, getting guys like Sam Hubbard and Malik Jefferson. Malik Jefferson had some questions about his commitment to the game and just how much true upside there was, more athlete than player. But again, when you're talking about mid-round 3, you start taking guys like that and hope that you can get them to figure it out. And there's one thing for sure that the Bengals needed was speed at the linebacker position, and Malik Jefferson brings that. And Sam Hubbard, not a superstar type of guy, but a guy you can envision being long-term a base-end starter in the league. To get him in the middle of round 3 is pretty good value. I thought the Bengals had a good day too, as did the Washington Redskins. Regardless of the reports of getting into a beef with Howie Roseman and worries about immaturity and only wanting to play video games and being lazy, Darius Geis is still a beast. And somebody at some point was going to take a chance on him in round 2. And the Redskins were able to trade back and still get Darius Geis at pick 59. They got him at 59. You have people that evaluated the draft that had Darius Geis rated ahead of Saquon Barkley on their big board. I did not, but I had a first to second round grade on him. And the Redskins got him in that late round 2, early round 3 range. That's crazy. And we're able to trade back and still do that. They may have potentially finally fixed their hole at the running back position. And then in round 3, get a future NFL starter at offensive tackle in Garon Christian. I thought it was good work for the Redskins, largely because of getting Darius Geis at pick 59. The New York Giants, coming right out of the gate at pick 34. Austin Corbett goes 33. The Giants have Will Hernandez fall right into their damn lap. Get a high-character attitude type of mauling interior lineman. You help better protect Eli Manning, and you also help better protect your number 2 overall pick that you just invested in Saquon Barkley. And then in round 3, get some high upside type of athletes in Lorenzo Carter and B.J. Hill. I thought it was really good day 2 work for the Giants. Also got a look at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I had a first-round grade on Ronald Jones. He was my number 2 running back in this class, and the Tampa Bay Bucks got him after a few other running backs that had graded a little bit lower went off the board. And then because of the deal that they did with the Bills to move down from 7 to 12 in round 1, they were able to get 2 defensive backs, which may really put the pressure on Fernan Hargraves here. MJ Stewart, Carlton Davis, then to turn around in round 3 towards the end and get Alex Kappa from Humboldt State. What's not to like about that dude that looks like the sloth from fucking Zootopia? Nothing! He looks like an offensive lineman. The Jacksonville Jaguars, they get DJ Chark late in round 2. All about gambling on that vertical ability, that speed, hoping you could teach him to catch and run routes, because if you do, he could be scary. If not, he could still fill a role for you. And then getting Ronnie Harrison, the safety from Alabama, late in round 3, felt like stealing. Absolute stealing. One of the best defenses in the league just got better because they got freaking Ronnie Harrison at the end of round 3. They didn't have to trade. They didn't have to do any of this, any of that. The Jaguars just sat in place on day 2 and got two solid players. One with big-time upside in DJ Chark, and another guy in Ronnie Harrison, who's a future starter for them down the road, and for now provides them even more depth in the secondary like the hell they needed it. Insane. But it's a homer pick for me as the biggest winners of number 2. Yes, it's my Chicago Bears. Getting James Daniels at pick 39. He's going to come in and be a year 1 starter at center. You can flip Whitehair out to guard. And then my number 2 wide receiver in this class, who I was the most emotionally connected to. This was my dude in terms of all the wide receivers. I absolutely loved Anthony Miller and was praying to God the Bears might do something to get up maybe into the early portion of round 3 to take this guy, because I believed in him that much. So my Bears sit there and trade up into round 2 to make sure that they get him. They gave up a 4th rounder this year. Whatever, you still had another one. And you give up a 2nd rounder next year. Well, before you freak out about that, think about it this way. There's all the freaking out about the number of picks they gave up to move up from 3 to 2 last year with Trubisky. We can also take a look at that and say, ultimately, they didn't have a 3rd round pick this year, and they still ended up taking 2 guys in round 2. So you're talking about next year, if the Bears are going to be what they might envision themselves to be, they might be able to be in a position to trade back in round 1 and get additional day 2 or day 3 picks that will help compensate for that. But I'm sorry, at this point in time, Anthony Miller was too tempting. Anthony Miller had too much to bring to the table for the Bears to potentially run the risk of not being able to get him. They had to make an aggressive move here, and I'm with it 100%. And in this case, to me, they got a day 1 starter at center and a day 1 starter at wide receiver. I absolutely love day 2 for the Chicago Bears. The losers, Maurice Hurst. You have a lot of people that had round 1 grades on him, or round 1 to 2 grades on him, or round 2 grades on him. And he didn't get drafted at all in day 2. And it's heartbreaking, because even if you weren't as high on him as a prospect, there's no reason other than the heart condition, which you're hearing in some circles being compared to Hank Gather's heart condition, where some teams have cleared him, a couple have, and many have not. It really sucks for him that it's gone this way, because it's costing him quite a bit of money. And he was a guy you might have thought would have won in day 2, and he didn't. Darius Geis. I say loser because he went from being a guy that could have been the 2nd running back drafted, maybe going as high as the early 20s, to going all the way down to 59. So he loses quite a bit of guaranteed money. Doesn't go to the worst situation for him, though, in terms of Washington, because if his head's on straight and he's committed, he'll be the starter before very long, and it won't matter long term. But he did lose a lot of money in the process. The Kansas City Chiefs, they traded up twice on day 2. They didn't get any defensive backs. And I look at even when they took Dorian O'Daniel, who I thought was a nice player, but I don't think he's better than Josie Jewell. You passed on Jewell to get O'Daniel. I was surprised. Not that the Chiefs were aggressive in trying to move up, especially because they didn't have the 1st round pick. I got that. But I was surprised that they didn't try to dip into the corner market on day number 2. The Seattle Seahawks, when I look at the entirety of their package in day 2, their 2nd round pick was sent to the Jets for Sheldon Richardson. Yeah, that didn't really work out. Now he's on a 1-year prove-it deal in Minnesota. So you could say you got 1 year of very little production and absolutely no playoff appearances out of that Sheldon Richardson trade where you gave up the 2nd round pick. And then the 3rd round, you took Rasheem Green. He's got some talent, got some upside, but he's got a bit of a knee issue. There were better players on the board. It feels like another one of those guys that the Seahawks valued more than everybody else, and they overdrafted him. And I know some in the NFL draft media will defend that, because they'll say, well, look at how it's worked out. And to the extent to a certain degree, it's true. But you also must realize that a lot of the best players that were the foundation of that championship Seahawks team were a free agent in Michael Bennett, a free agent in Cliff Averill, fifth-round picks in Richard Sherman and Cam Chancellor. Earl Thomas was a first-round pick, and he wasn't necessarily overdrafted. You know, Bobby Wagner was a second-round pick, and honestly, that wasn't a reach at that time. Russell Wilson was a third-round pick. If anything, the Seahawks benefited, frankly, from other teams' stupidity. And then guys like Doug Baldwin were undrafted. But when you look at their history, they have overdrafted guys, Fetty, Carpenter. This is not the first time they've done this, and it's a bad habit. And now it's left them in a situation where they are looking to fill more holes in their roster than they maybe thought they would needed to. And my biggest losers for day 2, the Oakland Raiders. I don't know what the hell they're doing. P.J. Hall in round 2? He was a day 3 guy. You took him in round 2? Like, I realize Nathan Shepard's 25 years old, but Nathan Shepard was a better prospect at 25 than P.J. Hall. And even when they were showing the highlights of P.J. Hall, they were all about blocking kicks. That's great. He can block kicks on special teams. So you spend a second-round pick on the guy whose highlights are all on special teams. And then you turned around and took yet another offensive tackle in Brandon Parker round 3. I wasn't as outraged about that, but you had already reached for Colton Miller in round 1. And then at the end of round 3, you take Arden Key, and I'm not sure that he is the best fit for your system. But I can at least justify gambling on the bit of upside you saw from him in 2016 at that spot. But overall, not great work to me for the Raiders in day 2. In terms of the best picks of day 2, I look at round 2. Will Hernandez at 34. What more do I need to say? Ronald Jones to the Bucks. Joshua Jackson to the Green Bay Packers. They got my number 1 corner in this draft, 40-something picks, after the Browns took Denzel Ward. Christian Kirk to the Arizona Cardinals. How about that? I got both their first and second round pick right. I really like Christian Kirk for the Cardinals. And then, of course, Anthony Miller. What more can I say? The Bears got him at 51, and to me, he was the second best receiver in this draft. And there really wasn't much separation between him and Ridley. Round 3, I look at Lorenzo Carter, another Giants pick. I had a first-round grade on him. I look at him as a Jamie Collins type of guy in the system that the Giants are going to run, which might even be better suited for him. Justin Reed, the fact that Texans got him in round 3, but a guy like Terrell Edmonds went to the Steelers in round 1 is just mind-blowing. Michael Gallup to the Cowboys at round 3. They finally got their wide receiver. And at that point in the draft, it's a pretty good value. It's a pretty good fit. I like the pick. I like the player for that team. The kind of sentimental value of Orlando Brown going to the team his daddy played for in the past. Zeus played for the Baltimore Ravens. I know we won't touch on Orlando Brown Sr. getting hit in the eye with the flag and then going after the referee. But the fact is he was a good quality offensive tackle in the league for a number of years. And there was something cool and full circle about seeing his son now being drafted to a team where he really makes a lot of sense for them and he really fits. I loved the pick. I thought maybe they would have drafted him in round 2. Instead, they were able to get him in round 3. And then Ronnie Harrison to the Jaguars at the end of round 3. Yeah, like they needed the help in the damn secondary. But those are my winners and losers and best picks of day 2 of the 2018 NFL Draft. Let me know what you thought about day 2 in the comment section. The day 3 winners and losers will come soon enough, so stay tuned.